Adam, would you like to have a drink with us tonight?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to stick to water.
You're good.
I got to go to work tomorrow.
You're good.
Last thing I need is one of those random breath tests.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to start doing those, right?
I don't know. It depends if you're nice to me on this episode or not. So,
Well,
Yeah.
then I shouldn't drink either.
No, go. You guys do it. You guys be comfortable. Do what you gotta do.
Yeah, I'll take it. We have our one, and then we're typically good.
Yeah.
So
yep, we got a baby to get home to. Thomas has a Laurel and a
Roomba
to get home to.
Yeah.
That's funny. I got a Dyson. And a
There you
Cassie.
go.
You've got some kids at home though, right?
So I have one. I've got 3 sons. My oldest son's a school teacher up in Edmond, and he's married and to a really sweet girl. She's a nurse and works at Mercy. And then I've got twin boys that are 21. One works out at the FAA, and the other one works for the police department. He's an ambassador down in Bricktown, and he still lives at home, still figuring things out.
Yeah.
And so me and my wife are in a different season of life.
Yeah.
We're starting to, we got married young, had children young. And so we're experiencing that newlywed phase right now. So it's really exciting.
Yeah. That's funny because that was, Laurel and I just recently being married.
Congratulations.
Thank you. She was like, when would you want to start trying to have kids? And I'm like, maybe start trying in the next year or something like that. And she was like, what? And I'm like, well, yeah, it's a good amount of time from now, about a year or so from now. And I was like, but, I'm obviously not stuck to that or anything. And she's like, that's just crazy. I know we can have kids. And I'm like, I'm not pressuring you, And she's like, no, I get it. But I'm like, but at the same time, you want to have 3 kids, your math ain't mathing right now. You gotta we gotta unless you want me to be 74 when our kids graduate high school, we gotta do it sooner than later. You know what I mean?
You guys want to have a few, right?
Yeah, I think her original way of talking about it was always that she wants to have a soccer team, and I'm like, I think we'll probably I say this as somebody who's never had a child, so obviously it's easy for me to say, but it's I think we'd probably ballpark in the 3 range. I think would be good, and that's what she says too, and I'm like, okay, well, again. Because she's like, I want to start after I'm 30, and she's 28 now.
Yeah. And
I'm like, right. And I'm like, you want to be pregnant the entirety of your young, you will be pregnant the whole time, your whole young 30s, if that's the plan. And I'm like, hey, that's not all up to me, but I think you got to realize that this is the time frame that we're in right now. We're not 22 years old. I'm 33, you're 28. If we want to start having kids, we gotta, there is a clock, there's a timer.
That's I think the boat that we're in now. And I've talked to parents that have had multiple kids on how much you don't realize, when you're talking, prior that, we're having, we'd like to have 2 kids or 3 kids. And we're finally starting to realize that ourselves because Riley just turned 1.
Yeah.
And Alyssa, started talking about, prior to all this was, we'd probably like to have it within a couple of years, about 2 years apart, would be nice.
Right.
And it was
wait a minute.
means we need to start trying to have a kid now. And it's we just had one though.
Right.
It's oh yeah, they do stack up pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, it's because I'm she said, well, yeah, and I'm like, you realize there's a 9-month timer on that oven. We gotta there's time that we've gotta, we don't just it doesn't just happen. She's like, no, I know. It's just weird to think about. But yeah, anyway, it was just kind of funny because it's girl, your math ain't mathing the way you think it is. I'm okay, but we might have to adjust what we think we're going to have. And whatever is meant to happen will happen. But it was just kind of funny of what do you mean next year? And I'm like, well, that's us having 3 kids, us starting next year. It's us having that last one when you're 34.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's
I love this.
Yeah.
This is so awesome because it's you look back and you start reflecting on the grind and raising children, and connection is so important. And I think that's one thing that my wife and I just made sure that when you get to this stage, you don't. It's not just a business transaction.
right.
Mhm.
It's not something to where you're like, okay, we raise the kids. You still got to have that connection,
Right.
and it is a different season, and there are different different things that come up, and the ups and downs and all that kind of stuff, but it's a beautiful journey. So it's like really awesome to hear you guys.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I can just look on the outside and support both of you as you guys are going into this journey of your business and work and having children and investing in that. Being a father is one of the greatest things in the world.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that I prioritized
Right.
from a young age. My first son was born when I was 20 years old.
Really?
And then we found out that we were expecting a second child two or 3 years later. Well, it was 3. And then we found out it was twins.
Whoa.
Whoa, now we go 3 kids.
Yeah,
Man,
right.
23 years old and you've got 3 children. But I was real fortunate to have 3 boys and was present and had a job that I could be real intentional and be present. I didn't want my sons to look up to someone else to be
Right.
their hero.
Right.
I wanted to be that person. And my wife is wonderful and and really supported that. And and now it's our relationships changed from a respect of you better do what dad tells you to do to I really appreciate them and I appreciate the friendship. So you guys got an awesome journey ahead.
Yeah.
Wherever it plays out. And that's I'm excited to watch you guys do that.
Yeah.
Well, I get to talk to one of your sons. I'm guessing one of the younger sons. Came into the store and he looked familiar, but I'd never met him before. And he was like, "Oh yeah, my dad shops with you guys." And I was like, "Oh, what's his name? I might know him, I might not, because I'm sure we've got a lot of fathers that shop with us." And he was like, "Adam." I'm like, "Adam's your dad?" I'm like, "I knew you looked familiar." But it was cool to see. He was really proud to tell me that you were his father.
Yeah,
so.
Max is it's Max. Max loves it, and always when I come in, I'll grab him an energy drink, or his mom will snag him a sweatshirt or something.
Oh yeah.
And so no, he's a great young man, and got a bright future.
That's
so
right.
I'm excited for him too.
Heck yeah.
So
well, shoot, let's get you introduced.
I was going to say.
yeah, let's
see
do it.
what happens. So we've got Adam Rosko here. First and foremost, in my eyes, close friend. Somebody who I talk to regularly. I don't get to, now that I'm GMing, I don't get to see in the store quite as much, but always great to see and talk to you and hear from you. And how many times we've had just long conversations about life and work and things. It's just been great. Work for the police department. But correct me, I don't want to get the unit wrong of what you're doing. So
currently I'm assigned to the wellness unit.
That's right.
And we are in charge of all of the overall holistic wellness for our employees, not just our police officers, but our professional staff. And so really, gosh, this journey started a long time ago. Just from when I started, I've been an Oklahoma City police officer for 23 years in March. Like I told you before, I started when I was 22 years old. So my young adult life was taking calls in Southeast Oklahoma City. And I was real fortunate to have some really good mentors and veteran officers that saw the big picture, prioritized their families, prioritized doing good quality work, a service to the community. And so to be honest with you, I wasn't one of those people that said, "Oh, I want to do this," from a young age. But there was a couple of times where I was impacted. Grew up in a low income home, and we struggled and all these different things. And but I do remember when I was in junior high, I was 9th grade, and there was just a bunch of ragtag kids. We were all playing sports together, and a school resource officer from Midwest City Police Department, he really just treated us with that kindness, respect, invested in us, did some intentional things, would give us rides back and forth to different places. We'd be playing baseball or whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought he was so cool.
Yeah.
And I was like, he would, be playing gangster rap music in the car,
Right,
really
right.
trying to connect with us, you know?
Sure.
And so I never forgot that.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, if I ever have a chance to pay it forward,
Yeah.
it just stuck with me. I was like, that guy's cool.
Hmm.
And then kind of some opportunities came and the police department was hiring some blue collar workers. I was working in a factory, a lot like this. It was a lot bigger. We made picture frames for a big corporation here in this metro that does arts and crafts. And so I said, I can't do this for the rest of my life. I'm making $8 an hour and it's not paying the bills. I mean, I'm barely scraping by,
Right.
and there's got to be something bigger for me. And so the police department at that time in the early 2000s, man, it was highly competitive. 5,000 people applying for one academy class. And I was like, man, all I've got is good character, and I've got manners, and I really think I can do this. And so they hired blue collar workers. And in March of 2002, I started the police academy and worked in patrol. And of course, there's a journey when you're out working at night. We call it dancing with the devil beneath the pale moonlight from Batman.
Yeah.
And met some great friends, had some traumatic things happen, and it all led. And I've got a lot of different assignments I've done. I was drawn back to working with youth later on in my career, and was able to be a school resource officer and work in our police athletic league and our FACT program. And then I just had this feeling I wanted to go back out in the field. Did that for a while, and I back in 2016 I had an opportunity to become a peer, and they had volunteer peer support people. And so I was like, I've got some baggage, I've got some trauma I've got to work on, and this would be good training for me, and maybe I can pay it forward.
Sure.
And so did that for a while, and then in 2020 I had a close friend of mine pass away, and that really got me.
Yeah.
Really, really got me. And he died unexpectedly. We went through the police academy together. He's 49 years old, died of a heart attack, still active. And so I was like, man, I was in a dark place. And so one of my close friends, Scott Pope, who's is on our wellness team, said, you need to go get help. And I was like, I'm good. I'm good at masking things. I'm the happy-go-lucky and all this kind of stuff. He's like, no, you need to go address some of this stuff. You'll be better for it. And so I did. And Cassie went with me, and we went through this journey together. And so I was assigned to municipal court detail, which we transport prisoners back and forth. And I was happy. And I was like, I'm going to do this till I retire and have a good schedule. But God had other plans. And so this wellness position opened up, and I knew it was going to be a big undertaking. Trauma happens at all times of night and all different things. And one of the things that I really pride myself on is being intentional. If you say you're going to do something or you're going to be there for somebody, you got to show up. You got to make those phone calls and do that. And so I looked Cassie in the eye. Cassie's my wife. And I said, hey, don't tell me the honest truth as we're going through this to do this job. Don't tell me, do what you want to do, but I need to know, like, do we have the capacity to do this?
Right.
And she was like, you're built for this.
Mm-hmm.
This is your calling.
Oh, yeah. And
so even at 22 years of service, I found my purpose.
Right.
And so we provide holistic wellness from mental, physical, spiritual, everything you can think of. We take care of our employees, and we're there for them. Anytime an officer's involved in a significant incident or in any kind of trouble, or they're just needing an ear to listen to, or need some peer support, or they finally get enough courage to come in the office and go, man, I need to talk to a counselor. Right. We facilitate that. And it's just the concept of meeting people where they're at.
Yeah.
Okay. Without shame, without judgment, without any of those things that come along with that stigmatism. We're in an A-type personality type of profession that takes a toll on you, and everybody's prideful. Yeah. Everybody wants to be elite, especially at the Oklahoma City Police Department. And so when you're able to meet people where you're at and you can relate to people and develop those real organic relationships, really good things can happen for our
Yeah.
employees. So that's kind of the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different milestones and different things.
Sure.
It all balances out with your personal life, your professional life. You have things that happen in your personal life with raising kids or illnesses or different things like that. And so you have that journey that you're trying to balance, and then you're working shift work, and you're a first responder, and you're out exposing yourself to all these different things, good or bad.
Right.
And you have a huge responsibility of, you have the right to take people's freedoms away. You have a right to change people's courses of their lives within 10 minutes
Right.
based on a call or whatever happens. And so that comes with some inherent things that happened over the years.
Yeah.
And so you can either embrace that or learn how to navigate that. We call it resilience and being aware. And those are the things we teach our police officers.
Yeah.
It's a really awesome job, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's right up my alley.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
where I'm supposed to be at right now.
Well, and to kind of double down on what Cassie said, first off, shout out to her. She's wonderful. She
Yes.
is one of the best people I see. She is the sweetest lady. I am such a huge fan. All of us are. We love when we get to see her.
Yeah.
She always has a smile on her face, no matter what's going on. She's, I know when you're in the thick of things with work or something, because she's showing up, making a snack run, and we're always just really happy to see her, because she's so wonderful. And I know how much, in our conversations, just how supportive she is for you, and you're a lucky man. She's great.
Yeah, I've outkicked my coverage on that deal. No, she's great. We just celebrated 25 years of marriage and working towards 26. And no, she's phenomenal.
Well,
She's a
when she
phenomenal
said
girl.
that this is your calling, I do believe that. This is something that I know when you were kind of going through the transition of going from what you were doing with the courthouse, going over to doing this. I know you and I had a number of conversations, and I know now that you're in it especially, but just how many conversations we had about, man, it's not easy to be built for this, but you're built for this, and it's kind of one of those things where you are the kind of person to step into this job, even though it's not easy, but because you know that you can be intentional and you can help. And one of the coolest things for me is, since you've taken over this job, is the police officers that I know or meet randomly that I kind of talk to. I always bring you up in the wellness unit, and they're always like, "Oh yeah," and I see how many people that know you, and how the impact of your unit sometimes is, it's always big, but how much it can mean, even just the smallest things of you guys being on scene when there's something going on, handing out water bottles, you know what I mean? Making sure that people are taking care of themselves. And, I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and it really got me thinking, and it kind of lined up well with what we were talking about. But it's something along the lines of if you're in a major metropolitan area, so like an Oklahoma City or just, someone like 1 million plus people, that your average street cop sees more traumatic events in 6 months than, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I think it's just to put it in perspective, than somebody sees in 3 tours overseas of war, because it's car accident, suicide, this happening, that happening. It's just things after things after things after things, that it's just a consistent thing. And I don't think they were posing it as to compare and say one's tougher than the other or anything, but it was to just open the eyes of hey, this is what police officers can go through.
Right.
And if we don't have something in place to be just even there for them, and then you not get to too much of the politics, but then you start seeing all the defund the police stuff. And it's these guys and girls are these men and women are going through it, and to have nowhere that they feel like they can turn to, or if their department doesn't have a wellness unit or doesn't have that kind of focus for counseling or just somebody to talk to, because like you said, it's a lot of type A, they're in this job because they get the job done no matter what's going on, and it's man, these you can see how important and how beneficial what you guys are doing is.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's like somebody said, a guy that works, or guy or gal that works out in our patrol divisions, they're in a combat tour to 16 days out of the month.
Right.
You know, they're out there, they're dealing with, you know, societal changes and all that kind of stuff. And it wears you down. And then, you know, as we're evolving and younger people are taking this over, you know, there's new equipment, there's body cameras and all these different things. And so there's just a lot more responsibility. And then there's so much expectation. And the one thing I love about Oklahoma City is that we have such a great support of our community.
Mm.
We do, just like anywhere else in the United States, we end up dealing with, you know, national issues. But one thing that's great about here is that the Oklahoma Standard. One of my first or second, yeah, maybe my first year or second year, I've worked 3 major tornadoes that come
Mhm.
through, and total strangers helping each other out.
Yep.
Mm.
Doesn't care what race, color, sexual
Sure.
orientation, or anything. You have people that go, I got you. I
Yeah.
don't know
Mm.
you.
Right.
And that was one of the most pivotal things in 2014. I'll give a shout out to my boy Clay.
Mm.
You guys know Clay, and
Mhm.
that was, we were working day shift together, and we saw those storms come in, and we it's just like something's coming,
Mm.
and we're trying to protect ourselves and outrun this while these big F5 tornadoes are coming through Southwest Oklahoma City, and it's just me and him, and all these people, we've got to go check their houses. And I looked at him and I said, today we don't leave each other.
Mhm.
I said, we don't leave each other.
Mm.
And he looked at me and goes, okay.
Mm.
And we just start clearing houses, and we start pulling people out. And this is the first time
Mm.
they've seen their whole place be demolished. And you hear that spew of gas, natural gas, and, you know, a couple of miles down the road, and a couple elementary schools have gotten hit, and
Mhm.
there's death and all these different things. And so you're there to provide you're that comforting, you're that savior
Mm.
of whatever the trauma is.
Mhm.
And a friend of mine once told me, you know, you're right up there, just like a professional athlete. Everybody in the room knows you're in there,
Mhm.
whether you want to be known or not.
Yeah, right.
Because if
Mhm.
somebody comes in and there's danger, 100 people are going to run behind you.
Right.
Mhm.
And so, no, you're absolutely right. And that's the best way to compare it is, but with saying all that, and with all the negative things, there are things that can be put in place. And I've experienced it, and I've had good people and good mentors, and you can be resilient. You
Mhm.
can learn how to build the capacity to take on those things. And I think it's relevant even, you know, with what you guys are doing. I don't see this as just as a police thing.
Mhm.
It's a way to run an organization or any kind of business or anything. When you have people that you're investing in their mental health, and having these concepts to where they understand and have self-awareness,
Mm.
and understand when everybody thinks different, the citizens or your customers are going to get the best.
Mm.
And I think you guys have understood that. And I've always told you, and I've told you before, like, I've learned a lot. I'm about 14 years older than you, but I enjoy these conversations, these organic conversations, because you guys have your maturity level is warp speed ahead of your competition, and it all goes together because we're all humans,
Mhm.
and we're all trying to put out the best product, and we're trying to be successful, whether you're a first responder or you're running a business or whatever. And so I'm really learning that all these things, resilience and capacity, and the things you do daily, um, what you what you're listening to, what kind of knowledge you're trying to get, how do how can you be a better husband, a better father, all those different things, it all comes together.
Yeah.
Mm.
And just finding like-minded people, and just trying to teach those concepts. We've done a really good job at the police department from our previous Chief Gorley. He established that he saw officer wellness as a priority.
Mm.
2019, right before the riots, right before COVID, it was the sweet spot. And then Chief Basie, who's our new police chief now, he's all in on wellness, and just being intentional with our people and making sure that they're taken care of. And so they put the right people. I work with 2 amazing partners, Katie Lawson and Scott Pope, and got a great supervisor, and we have two great chaplains and a good LPC. Our department has a licensed mental health person, and so we've got all the tools right there. And so when you have sergeants who've walked that path and we've experienced things, we've been involved in officer involved shootings, we've been injured on duty, we've had these different things happen, there's credibility and there's validation. So when a young officer goes, "Hey, I want to talk to you," oh man, come sit down.
Yeah, right.
I'll stop what I'm doing. We'll knock this out and try to get you on a pathway. And then it's up to you to take that and to grow from it. And so we teach a lot of different concepts like that.
I know. I'm sure it takes a very special type of person just to be part of the police department in the first place,
Sure.
but to be the one working with the people that are seeing the trauma on a daily basis, man. I'm sure it takes an extra special type of person, man.
Yeah, so, you gotta know. A friend of mine, she lives in Arizona. She says you got to let it run through your head and out your toes, and you're responsible to people, but you're not responsible for them. And so we want anybody that has you got to have stake in your life. You got to be a stakeholder. You can't be codependent for others to make those decisions for you. And so we really do a really good job, like I said, meeting people where they're at, having those organic conversations, not telling people how to think or not telling people how to feel, and let them navigate that. And then you've got the tools to be able to really take control of your life. We don't want, the life expectancy of an officer after he retires is like 5 to 8 years of life afterwards. Okay. And so for me, I'm going to try to leave when I'm 52 years old, man. I want to live.
Right.
And so I want to be better. And so it would be awesome if we didn't even have to have a wellness unit.
Right.
And so, but we do. And so, but it's a movement at the police department. I'm really proud. It's one of those, we're changing the culture where guys are going car to car and visiting about, "Hey, what did you think about this call?" And man, it kind of got to me a little bit.
Yeah, right.
That's sweet. That's organic. That's people talking about things. They're aware. They're aware that this is affecting me. Why am I having trouble sleeping?
Right. We don't have to push this down. We don't have to, because then you start falling into the other vices of life that happen too. That's when you start, people start drinking, people start finding their escapes, and it's like you start going downhill and it starts heading in a bad direction.
And you're searching anywhere and everywhere, whether it's relationships outside your marriage, whether it's alcohol, whether it's pills, whether it's whatever, but it's all destructive behavior. And so we really work really hard. We call it Magnus, is what we're trying to be, greater than great. We have 11 rings of wellness that we use as a platform, as a guideline, where it's kind of like a wheel bearing. You have 11 different areas: relationships, health, resilience, all these different things. I should memorize them, but I just try to, organically just keep track of all of them. But it's like a wheel bearing. And so we all know that when that wheel is going really good, right? Man, that wheel's going straight down the road. But if you ever had a vehicle where one wheel bearing is kind of going out and you're like, "Oh, there's a little knock or a little noise," but the wheel still goes and it's still performing. And then I'm a Jeep guy. I've had Jeeps in the past, and that old death wobble.
Yeah.
And then we know multiple wheel bearings are going out.
Right.
That's when we know we've got a problem. And so as long as we strive to keep all those different areas in our life optimal, then man, we're going to go down the road straight. We're going to have a successful life. And ultimately, my friend Scott says it creates time. Time on this planet, time at our jobs, time with our family, and it's quality time. We're not worrying about this or worrying about that or constantly out of whack. And so we try to teach that. We teach it in our academy classes. We teach that in anytime we have peer support stuff or training for our peers. We have about 45 volunteer peers on our team that are spread out throughout the department that believe in what we're doing. And they're really, we try to recruit some really diverse guys that are on our tactical team, in patrol, investigations. And so there's someone out there that you can connect with.
Right. There's somebody in every corner.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about, is connecting.
Amen.
That was one thing that has always really stuck with me. I think you told me this. It might have been a couple of years ago now that you were talking about, our customer service
Hmm.
and how a big thing for us is building genuine relationships with the
Yes.
people that come in the door. And for us, that's always made sense to me. Hey, if we can actually build a relationship, get to know these people, and genuinely get to the point where we can help them and give them genuine help. Is that you'll come back on us. If we just focus on that, that's where people trust us, buy their supplements from us, shop
Yeah.
with us, that,
Recommend us. Yeah.
recommend us to their friends. And it's like, from a business mindset like that, that makes a lot of sense to me. But you were talking about how that is the same route that you've taken with your career in law enforcement.
Hmm.
And that was really interesting to me because I had never thought about a career, especially so different from retail, being able to take the same route in it, and it really expanded my mindset towards, man, it's if you just care about other people and just work on relationships and help people, like, it can take you so far in so many different avenues, where it really started to make sense to me. Because, like, what didn't make sense to me at first, but the more I thought about it is you're kind of in the same boat, like retail. Like, we're seeing, at the stores, we're seeing, hundreds of different people every month,
Right. Right.
and, when people come in once or twice a month, they're not always seeing the same people. But over time, if the people that they are seeing are always nice, always friendly, always helpful, always try and
Right.
get to know them, that helps our reputation. And the more likely it is for them to come back and be a repeat customer. And then we do start to get to see them, once every other month, or, if, somebody else is helping them out in the store, I get to say, I notice them over in the corner. I, get to say hi and catch up with
Sure.
them for a second. And it made me realize that you're probably in the same boat. As you're not seeing a brand new person every single time, especially when, you're out on patrol, is you're probably seeing some people that
Sure.
and even if you aren't, it's, these people are encountering different police officers, from time to time in their life, and
Right.
you have an opportunity to help the reputation of the
Mhm.
OKCPD.
Sure.
And it just it made a lot of sense to me, of like, man, like, the more, you can help build trust with people in you, and just and the police department in general, the easier your job becomes.
Oh, by far. And I think I've even shared with you guys, we're all in the people business.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And you in my line of work, I don't know what's going on. And even you guys, you might have somebody on and you don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Mhm.
Right.
You don't know that if you call somebody, what kind of how bad they are in the dumps. Okay.
Mhm.
And the older I've gotten, and as I've been doing this kind of work, you start to have different perspective. And
Mhm.
I really, where you go, okay, I'll never forget when the first time I came to the store. I came down to Norman because there was only a Norman in the North store at the
Mhm.
time,
Mhm.
and I met Preston,
Mm.
and Preston took care of me that day. Well, 2 weeks later, Preston sends me a handwritten note, and that just, I was like, I'm a customer for life.
Mm.
Mm.
That was intentional, and it wasn't generic.
Mhm.
And I said, but that came from somewhere, that company, and somebody taught a young person, because I think he was 20 years old at the time. And that's not normal behavior for this generation to do that. That's something that is an old school thing, that you write a handwritten letter or a handwritten note. And it's just I was like, that's big time. And I've actually stole that, where our office,
Please do.
we did,
Mhm.
we stole it. And I was like, hey, we need to write some handwritten letters to our stakeholders when they've provided resources or different things,
Mm.
and we've gotten a really good feedback from
Mhm.
that. And I've sent some people
Yeah, yeah.
some
Yeah.
notes, and
It's hanging in the back of your Yukon
yeah,
right now.
and it's, but and you just, when you write specific things and you do that, man, it just makes an impact.
Mhm.
And you create a culture, and it's like, it's more than just buying and transactional. It's transformative.
Mm.
And I think that's where there's a lot of similarities in customer service and what you guys do and what we do, because we're getting people that are in the worst places of their
Mm.
life, worst place,
Mhm.
whether it's a burglary or whether it's an accident or whether it's a violent crime or they just found out that someone in their family's been sexually assaulted. And so you have to really handle with care. And our officers do a fantastic job. We have core values, and we they're trained from the day one. Um, it's there's sometimes it's a physical. There's a physical where it's a physical job where you might have to fight someone who's being belligerent, or you have to chase someone who's a violent suspect. And there's all these different variables. You got to make quick decisions and be able to.
That's tough.
Oh man,
Mhm.
that are going to affect you and affect the people that you're trying to protect. And so, it's definitely a calling,
Yeah.
and it's definitely one of those things that you don't go into lightly. And but you got to give everybody tools in their toolbox to
Mhm.
take that on and be elite. And we pride ourselves on being, the best agency in the state and in this part of the country. And
Yeah.
and so, but there's a lot of correlations between what you guys are doing and what we're trying to do too.
That was one really interesting thing that I've learned as I've become an adult and worked in a couple of different places. A lot of my work experience is definitely within the fitness industry, but I think I even learned not to take it for granted where we work in a supplement retail store,
Sure.
because we get to work. It's the type of people, and not necessarily the type of people, but when are you working with people, and what mindset and what state of mind are they in when you're seeing them.
Right.
And when people are coming into a supplement store, I've realized are tend to be in usually a really, really good mindset. Is usually they're bettering themselves.
Right.
They're getting to pick up a new flavor of protein, and
Mhm.
it's and man, we get to talk to people when they're in the best mood sometimes.
Yeah.
It's-
Sure.
they a lot of times just hit the gym, so their endorphins are going. I've worked at another gym. It's not around anymore, but I've worked at another gym, so it's still within the fitness industry, and it's people that are trying to better themselves. It was a cheaper per month gym, so it was generally people just trying to get a cheap workout in, and a little bit
Right.
more in that mindset. And a lot of my job was, making sure everybody was up to date on their payments, and people aren't so much in a great mindset when that's happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And man, it was just crazy to me, man. It was, dude, I would get grown adults. Like I've had like people well into their 50s that are cussing at me to my face, calling me names, threatening to sue me. Like, and this was on a weekly basis. Like
Yeah.
I kind of got used to it, but I really started to appreciate our customers in Triad that aren't in that
Right,
mindset, because I never get that. So, but man, I was just in a gym, just working with people that like were late on their payments, man. I can't imagine that, like, you are working with people, like as an officer, you're having to work with people that are potentially having the worst day of their life.
Yes. Yes. And you got to be a master of conflict resolution.
Yeah.
And be able to articulate things and be able to maintain control when things
Mhm.
are getting out of control. You've got to bring order to chaos a lot.
Mhm.
That's a big thing that when I was a young officer, that was really pointed out to me. And no matter what, there's always I trained recruits too. When I was a field training officer after I made sergeant. That was one of my professional goals I wanted to do, is wanted to teach young officers how to
Mhm.
be police officers. And so I really focused on the psychology behind police work.
Mm.
It's easy to teach somebody how to take a report. It's easy to teach somebody how to work a rec or the proper forms you got to do. It's really like teaching someone the psychology behind it, why we do what we do. How do you find the criminal element? How do you do things without violating people's rights and being responsible for state statutes and city ordinances
Right.
and policies and procedures and all these different things that are mandates on you to do your job. And so, and then how do you take all of that and do all of that and still try to make chicken salad out of chicken shit sometimes?
Yeah.
I mean, where
Right.
where it's bad.
Mm.
And people are going to continue to be in that cycle. But God puts these people in your life for, like I said, 15 to 30 minutes per call, and you take about 20 of them a night.
Right.
And how do you try to just change the world without becoming jaded?
Right.
How do you help people without starting to form biases and different things? And so, I always said two things: no matter what, you leave people with the illusion that you care.
Yeah.
Even if you're not dialed in, people got to feel like they're being heard.
Mm.
And two, leave people with the illusion that you care. And then the second one, I'm sorry, I was racing a little bit.
You're good.
The concept is there's nothing we can do. I said to every recruit, don't ever tell anybody that. There's always something you can do.
Right.
Mm.
You're the Oklahoma City Police Department.
Right.
You got to dig and find. Don't go to somebody and they go, hey, I've got this problem. Well, there's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
I'm out. I said, don't ever do that.
Right.
And so those were the two things that I really prioritized in teaching someone how to be a police officer. You've got to always at least act like you care.
Right.
And be concerned with that. And then there's always something you can do.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because it kind of reminded me back to even what Kevin was just saying, was how important it is to, like you've been saying too, it's like meet people where they are, and how much of an impact you can have on people through a whole host of different ways. One of them that comes to mind is we just recently helped some people going through a challenge for a new gym, and they're really trying to make some changes in life. And one of the most important things that I think that we can do in that situation, I think we did a good job of it, but is be excited, bring more energy, like continue to double down on what they're doing being good, and that this is a good thing. And
yes,
and it's people don't realize, I think, from time to time, how quickly, no matter if it's a really tough situation or just a tough season of life, how quickly you can take the wind out of someone's sails if you're not intentional on trying to help them, or trying to, bring them, if they come in and they're already nervous about being in a supplement store, and, this isn't their normal thing that they're doing, but they're really trying to make a change in their life. And they were to come in and we seem disinterested or kind of standoffish, man, they might not want to go back to the gym. Like, we might have a huge negative effect.
Domino effect.
Right.
Yeah.
We might, if we don't come to them like excited about their journey, wanting to help, wanting to give genuine help, like being all of those things and having some energy, like that is like, how detrimental could that be? And I think for us, it's like we can never take that for granted, or not be putting that into our own perspective at times, because again, like how many people were at the store the other day for this? Probably 10 to 15
10 to 15, yeah.
And we're making up shakes and everybody's talking, we're sampling stuff, we're joking around, we're having a good time. And it's like, that again is just reinforcing to them, even if they never take another supplement in their life, it's just reinforcing hopefully into them that like, this is a positive thing. This is leave happy, leave feeling positive about what you're doing in this change in your life, because it is a hugely positive thing. And again, the opposite side is if we come in and, what's up, man? Yeah,
you're gonna feed off of that.
Cool, good to see you.
Yeah.
Like they might have just been barely holding on to the edge of like doing this, and it's like if you give them any reason or pushback or anything that makes them feel dumb or whatever, it's gonna be like, I'm out. I can't do it. This is already out of my wheelhouse. And it's like, I think people forget how much of a profound effect that you can have on the people around you by just your own energy and your own attitude.
Oh, 100 times. And you have to be inspired. You gotta know who you are and what inspires you. And it'll come out.
Yeah.
It'll come out with your actions. It'll come out with your attitude. You can control your effort and attitude, or the things that you can control.
Right.
But I'm real big on when we visit about this wellness initiative to our officers. It's like, man, I got 23 years on and I'm excited to come to work.
Right.
Okay. I should be at the point in my career where I'm thinking about what's next.
Right.
But I enjoy it. I'm inspired. I'm inspired by our people. I'm inspired by these concepts. I'm inspired by getting this out to our people. And it's like, it's the same with you guys. You feel that energy when you come into the store and then, you know, or even if you've got someone that's brand new, that's kind of, you know, they're your little disciples of what you're trying to do and the culture you're trying to create. But it's like, that's inspired people try to get around inspired people.
Right.
Yeah.
And so inspiration's a big deal. And first you got to know that. You got to know what inspires you, why you do what you do. And you know, it goes back to that. It's kind of been overkilled, but know your why.
Yeah.
You know, that's starting to come back again. And it's a good litmus test to check yourself every day and go, why am I doing what I do?
Right.
Why do I get up every day? What am I excited about?
Right.
We have this concept, and I'll share it with you guys, where we have this color code. It came from the Canadian Royal Police, and it's green, yellow, orange, and red. And so green is when you're really optimal, and it's a very, very simple concept. And you guys can steal it and take it for your company too. When you're doing trainings with, you get everybody together and you're like, okay, where are you when you're in the green? And what do you look like when you're in the green? What does our company look like when it's in the green? When things are going really good and we got all these great things happening? What do we do daily to put ourselves in the green? Are we having bad attitudes or whatever? Are we coming in and encouraging people?
Right.
And you can run this test. What do you look like when you're in the yellow? When you're kind of sluggish,
right?
And maybe you're not all in. Or what do you look like when you're in the red, when things aren't good?
Right.
When your personal life is interfering with things at work. You're starting to become depressed. You know, with us, it could get as worse as suicidal ideations and all these bad things.
Sure.
And so we use that when we teach our recruits. We teach them wellness, and we have them go through as a class. What do you guys look like in these areas?
Right.
They, of course, they say we get our assignments done. We're working together as a team. And then we have them go individually. And what do you look like?
Right.
And so we all go through that too. And I can tell you what puts me in the green: good music, time with my wife, good conversations with people, washing my truck. So, I mean, little things, going to the gym and putting on gangster rap music for 45 minutes.
Right.
It gets me where I'm like, okay, getting up and doing the process of making coffee in the morning, kissing my wife on the forehead. Those are things, having good conversations with my kids, having good conversations with people close with me. That puts me in the green.
Right.
And then when I look like in the green is I'm happy. I'm easy to be around. I'm optimal at work.
Right.
And so, and then as you kind of develop that, and where everybody kind of knows what they look like in the green, yellow, and red, we kind of skip orange because that's probably where it goes to anyway.
Yeah.
Then you can start going, hey, what's going on, Thomas? You seem like you're yellow today.
Right.
What can I do as your friend to get you in the green? Because guess what? You've told me out loud what makes you happy. And then it kind of there's that responsibility to go,
right,
we're going to get you in the green today.
Right. Well, it's funny that you say that because, I think like for us, some things that we've even implemented kind of along those lines at times is like one being, if we have to have a hard conversation with somebody, it's always done not on shift. It's not like I'm going to text somebody something bad while they're on shift. So they set their phone down and then they have to go be this perky, happy, I'm going to take this customer as if nothing's going on kind of thing. And so, for us, it's like trying to be very intentional of like, hey, hard conversations are going to happen. Let's be strategic when we're going to do it. Like, let's, we're going to have to deal with whatever the conversation is. Let's not have the customer have to deal with this as well.
Right.
And then we've also, from time to time, we've had a lot of new employees. It's probably time to do it again. But we've done different like personality tests, like different understandings of like, hey, what's a love language for you? How do I praise you in a way that you're going to feel this? How am I, is it going to be my words, or is it going to be, is that not going to matter? Is it going to be, how do I reward you? How do I continue to, keep you positively, where I'm not just like giving it to you, but that you're also receiving it in a way that feels really positive to you, and you feel the love or you feel the praise or whatever. And so, we've done that a lot of like trying to understand like, hey, what is this person looking for? what is something that we can do to, help them, feel like you're kind of saying, like, how do I help you get to the green? And it's
Sure.
like, we've never done like it like that. And it's really cool. But again, it's like, just having a better understanding of each other. Hey, how do you want to be communicated to?
Right.
Are you somebody who you want me to spill it all, or you want bullet points?
Right.
How do I, if you're busy, how do I deal with this? Because it's so important, I think, too, to like, hopefully if you can have an influence to continue, but it's like, it's to teach people that this is how they should, hopefully, if we're doing it right, treat their own life,
Yes.
treat their relationships, have a better understanding of how to, have a spouse or have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and how important it is to not just be learning about how you receive love or praise, but also how you're giving it. And are you matching those things? Am I doing this in a way, because I can praise Kevin all day and he might not ever hear that the way that I'm giving it to it and presenting it to him, where it's like, hey, but if I do it in this way, well, now it means tenfold more. And that's on, in my opinion, it's on me as the person giving the praise or giving the love to tailor myself to the person so they can receive it. I can always change how I give. I can't necessarily change how I receive it.
Absolutely.
And so if it's like focusing on that, and hey, hopefully this is stuff that you can take outside of the workplace too. You can take this back home to, a significant other or whatever's happening, and kind of hopefully branch this out to have a better understanding of not just yourself, but the people around you, and understanding like, hey, if you're talking to a customer, how you implement how you're interacting with them, and you start to get a little bit more like social acuity of like, is this person responding well? Are they understanding? Are they taking my praise well? Or are they, they getting, all those kind of things.
Oh, it's gosh, you hit so many points in that statement. And officers we have to do it, like we have to really present it in a very, very simple way. Because we're a paramilitary organization, and its mission, we got to do these things.
Right.
And so it's really breaking down that stigmatism of like, yeah, I'm in the green, or no, I'm in the yellow,
Right.
or I'm in the red.
Right.
And it's one of those things where you can really point out some things and start good, genuine conversations.
Right.
But like you said, you have to also know that people take criticism, they take compliments, and they take it different.
Mhm.
And some people don't just based on the way their experiences, whether they had adverse childhood experiences or whatever.
Oh, you're
Hit
okay.
that. So you when you're listening to people, and you have to listen to understand versus just listen to
Right.
respond. And later on in my life, I really figured that out personally. And I think that comes with the growth, especially with my spouse. There's times where I'm a problem solver.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then I start treating my spouse or my kids when they were younger, or my marriage, where I've got a solution.
Yeah. Right.
You do this, do that, do this, and it's done. And
As guys, that's I think how we work.
yeah, but if you here's a little life hack, and just from someone who's been married a long time. Once I kind of figured out, and it kind of hit me like a hammer over the head, that my relationship with Cassie, that I can't, she goes through certain things during the day.
Right.
She'll always tell me, "Oh, it doesn't compare to what you're dealing with." But your feelings are validated.
Yeah.
And what you go through is important.
Right.
Just as what I go through is important. But and so I always ask her when I feel that she's got to dump some stuff on me, and we're
Right.
having these conversations. I go, real quick, honey, do you are you looking for advice,
Mm-hmm.
or are you wanting just somebody to
Right.
just listen?
Mm.
She's like, I don't need any advice.
Right.
I just want to listen. I'm like, yes, I
Yeah.
won.
Yeah.
Got it.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's
We
so
can turn off that
important.
automatic switch that us guys
Right.
have.
But
like-
then she just, and then I learned so much more about what
Right.
she's going through. And I learn every day, I'm learning something, like another layer or another door into her heart, into her
Right.
soul, and why she thinks the way she thinks. And I just think, when we're aware and we're considering those things, of course, on a call, I mean, I can't go that deep,
Yeah. Sure.
but there's always ways to navigate and to hear people and make them feel heard, and especially with our officers too, when they've taken the courage to reach out to you. That's a
Right.
big step,
Amen.
big step, because they've been suffering in silence for no telling how long.
Mhm.
And they finally get the courage to go, I need to do this. And they've battled it in their brain. And I always, the picture I paint is that scene in Titanic where Leonardo DiCaprio's fallen into the water.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of people that are in this job that feel like that. They feel like the walls are caving in.
Right.
How I know? I was one of those people
Right.
Mm.
where I was just like, oh, I feel like the walls are caving in. And so you've got to be able to meet people where they are and really listen to understand what's going on.
Right.
So then you can guide them. But it corresponds with everybody and everything, relationships, listening to my adult sons tell me their issues or whatever they've
Right.
got going on, and instead of going, hey, you should do that, you should do that, you should do this. And so it's really helped me as a human to develop. And I think no matter how old you are, no matter where you're at, there's always that opportunity to grow.
Right.
And so anyway.
Well, like you were saying too, I think like such a big part of it for you
I'm going
guys
to the
is
restroom real quick.
yeah,
Sure.
good. Especially in the like the work that you're in, again, it's just taking the stigma away of like, it's okay to need help. It's okay to be talking about this with your peers. It's okay to be saying, hey, this really got me, like this really did affect me here. And then like, once you take that stigma away, because especially, as guys, it can be tough to want to open up. And then especially in the line of work that you're in, I think it's a double down in there too, of it being like, you got to be tough. You're the protector. And so it becomes harder and harder. And so just having that, like, again, not just talking to somebody, but also talking to somebody who truly understands.
Yes.
Like who kind of gets what's happening. I know Kevin and I from time to time will vent back and forth, and we know to just take it as venting kind of thing, because it is just like, man, it's like nobody really understands this dynamic as well. Like we obviously, when it comes to the company or whatever, it's like this is something we both grasp at a different level, and it's like it's nice to have that, and just being able to feel comfortable to do that is so important, because again, kind of like you're saying, like, Laurel and I will do the same thing where, if one of us is starting to talk about something, it is the question gets asked, or not the question, but the what I need is proposed prior to me venting or whatever. And same for her of like, hey, this is what I'm needing. I don't need solutions, because it can be tough for me, and I'm sure for her as well, where it's like she doesn't understand every work dynamic, and she doesn't understand the way we do things, like she understands a lot, but she's not here every day. And so it's like, I want to be able to decompress without having to explain why this wouldn't work and why that wouldn't work, and why I understand why you think that, but that's not really what it is. It's more like this. And it's like that becomes an added layer of stress, not
huge.
a way to decompress. And so having the ability to just be like, hey, babe, I just need to vent. Like, I'm not looking for solutions. I'm just looking for someone to listen and tell me that sucks, that's annoying, or whatever I'm needing. And it's just like, and then I can decompress, and without having to have like an added layer of stress to it, or any of those things. And it's super important to start to learn and understand that.
Well, you said something that is, I don't even know that you've tapped into this, but you put it out there that what you need. A lot of times people will start trying to change other people and go, you should do this, you should do that. If you did this, but when you say the words, and a counselor brought it out, when you say, I need this, then it's not about you trying to change somebody else, because they have needs too.
Right.
And so that was a good pickup. Without even just navigating life and picking up on that. That's a really big life hack of being able to articulate to people that you care about that you need certain things. And then you've got to turn around and go, when they say, well, I need certain things too, then that's when the compromises and relationship can really take effect. We really get in trouble when you start going to well, if Kevin would have done this,
Right.
or
Mhm.
Thomas, Thomas needs to change,
Right.
and we're not looking at what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Can't change other people.
I can only control myself,
That's right.
Mhm.
and then there's some non-negotiables in there that I even take it a deeper layer, that I'm not going to do certain things
Right.
um, based on my value system, or different things, but I can still be considerate of other people. The police department, we service all different kinds of people, all different kinds of races, religion, sexual orientation. And so when I would teach young recruits, it's like, you've got to be able to check those things at the door and provide a service for people, because they're depending on you. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You're a representative of Oklahoma City,
Mm-hmm.
and people need you. And so, yeah, it's a cool deal, man. I reflect back and see all the crazy things I've been a part of, and the things I navigated young in my life, and go, man, there's nights where I didn't you have to kind of like pinch yourself and go, I can't believe I survived that,
Mm.
or I can't believe I saw that and
Mm-hmm.
experienced that. And then there's certain things that stick out in my brain that I can pivotal things that happen that have impacted me,
Sure.
that I'm like, man, God, I had an angel around me, and he protected me that night. Or I worked a call in Southwest Oklahoma City. A female had been stabbed multiple times in her front yard,
Mm.
and a husband, it was domestic, and this husband had waited out for her while she had friends inside, and he had it, and he violently killed her in front. Well, they had two babies. Like, I'll never forget
Jeez.
this, 7 and a 5-year-old.
Jeez.
And they hear the commotion outside, and they go out to the window, and they see mom laying in the front yard. And so I get there, and I immediately go to those kiddos, because
Mhm.
they're the same age group as my
Mm.
children. And I go, I have to muster that courage to go. They're asking all kinds of hard questions, and the
Mm.
questions I can't answer right now, because I know the truth. And at that moment, God put me there to intervene for those children.
Right.
Mm.
And I'll never forget trying to navigate getting them out of the house, getting them to my police car without them seeing their mother,
Mm.
and just hugging them and holding them. And I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
And then, you've got to take them to a shelter, and they're like, please don't leave, and you go buy them
Mm.
breakfast because they haven't eaten. And you know that dad's probably going to go to prison. He's going to
Right.
get caught. He ends up getting caught later on in the day. But those two kids' lives are changed forever.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I got chosen at that moment, at that time, to be there for them.
Oof.
And that's trauma.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
deep. And you go, golly. And you go home, you got to go to bed,
Right.
and you try to explain it to your spouse without anybody
Yeah.
else going, and go, man, there's some crazy stuff that happened tonight.
Right.
And then you've got to try to get sleep, and you're sleeping during the daytime,
Mm.
and you rinse and repeat and go back available and do it
Right.
the next night. And so we're trying to figure out how to deal with those things, get them
Right.
out in the open. The biggest thing is just not letting them sit on your chest,
Amen.
and being able to talk them out, and even just telling that story. And stories are huge.
Yeah.
Stories are what make us,
Mm.
and when you can get those things off of your chest and be able to say, I felt a certain way about them,
Yeah.
and look around and everybody goes, I see it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're vulnerable, and you bring those things down, those barriers down, you realize everybody else is just like you,
Mm-hmm.
and they're dealing with the same thing.
Mm.
And so that's what we're trying to do, is create that culture of addressing those things quick, talking about them. And sometimes that's just enough.
Right.
But we don't ever want things stuck on the front of our
No,
brain. And
yeah.
if they're still stuck there for 5-6 months, that's when you come to the wellness unit, and
Right.
you go, hey, I need to see a counselor. We start working on that. And then we have several different things that are in play where we go, we'll get you the help.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was one of those things I can look back and go, man, that really impacted me. But I'm not affected by it, as far as I don't lose sleep or anything like
Right.
that. I look at it like the positive part, that I was picked by something higher than me to intervene for those people. And
Yeah.
it goes back
Right.
to what inspires you.
Right.
Yeah.
So now my inspiration and my job has changed because it's about our people. That's who I'm fighting for, is our employees.
Right.
And everybody in my unit is fighting for our employees,
Hmm.
whether it's their mental health, whether it's their physical health, whether it's their financial stability, whatever it is. We go in every day turning rocks.
Right.
There's a saying, it's called Goyakad, Goyakad, I think. And it says, get off your ass and knock on doors.
Mm.
That means don't waste time. Get out there and hump it up.
Right.
And it was initially for detectives. No cases are going to get solved with you sitting at a desk
Right.
waiting for the phone to call. You got to get out and knock on doors, get off your ass and knock on doors. And so that's just kind of how I look at it, is get out there and find as many resources, find as many people that are like-minded. And if it all goes back, it's not about me.
Mhm.
I'm just a facilitator. My job is to serve my people. And once you kind of like take self out of it, man, it's so much more rewarding. And when you have those little wins and you've got those relationships and you've built those relationships, that's my legacy. That's what I want to leave at the police department, is they go, Adam was a real dude.
Mhm.
Adam was a hard ass worker when he was out there in the field, but he cared about people. Organizations change,
Mhm.
leadership changes all the time, but what's your legacy? What are people going to remember you for?
Mm.
That you were genuine, you were intentional, you said hello to me, you called me by my first name. Same thing that you guys do. That's what you guys. That's where I see the correlation. And so yeah, I just try to steal some of your stuff and implement it where I work at, and then always give you feedback that it's working in other places.
One thing you said earlier that's kind of I'm just a little bit more curious on. You said you talked about going out every day and trying to change the world and not becoming jaded.
Yeah.
And it can be a pretty tough thing. I know even for us, like even in stores, like you have one difficult customer, it's hard to take the next one and
Right.
be in a positive mindset. I can imagine for you, you know, even in some tougher situations, there's going to be time. I'm sure you have call after call that it's probably tough to find the positives in. And I'm just curious if you've had any tricks or you have any tips that you give your people on being able to, you know, continue to keep a positive mindset. Cause every time I see you, you are
Yeah.
just so excited to talk to whoever's in the store.
Sure.
I'm curious how you've been able to keep that.
Well, it's like riding a bike.
Okay.
Okay. And there's days where Adam's not the best.
Mhm.
And there's days where I fall short of that. And it's a mindset. It's something that you have to try to commit to. And like I said, I'm human. And there's days where I go, I just don't have it in the tank.
Yeah.
People are pissing me off. People are cutting me off on the road, and it's and Adam can turn the switch when Adam needs to turn the switch. And you guys have never seen that, but when my lip gets tight and I start poking my finger in your chest and I go, listen here,
Yeah. Right.
MFer,
Yeah.
it's do-si-do time. But you know, it's just being able to turn that on and turn that off when appropriate, and trying to be yourself.
Yeah.
One of the things that is really important to me is I never wanted to lose myself in this job. I didn't want to lose who Adam was.
Yeah.
Adam has a certain,
I feel like that can happen.
well, it can.
Yeah.
And if you're not aware, or those are things that you're not trying to work on, it can get away from you just like that. And so, when I leave this place, I don't want people to go, Adam, the police officer. You know, I don't want that title. It's what I do for a living. It gives me a platform. It's a noble, great job, but I want you to know me for me, that Adam is like this, whether he's at work or whether Adam is stopping in to get a drink, or Adam sees you at the store, or you have a personal relationship with me that's outside of law enforcement. And so it's just something you got to work on. It's something that you just have to check yourself like, oh, I feel like I'm getting jaded.
Mhm.
People are pissing me off, and
Mhm.
I'm running out of patience, and I'm not doing the things that I say
Yeah.
I do, and I kind of have this like self test and go, okay, is everything in order? Am I in the green?
Mhm.
Am I
Doing the things that get you in the green.
right,
Hmm.
right.
Okay.
So there's a thing um, that there's a guy named Dr. Mitch Javidi. He's so awesome. He's one of our guys that have taught leadership classes, and he's a phenomenal guy. And he put something that like a real simple, like I said, officers like things simple, acronyms and all these
Hmm.
different things. And so he said that if you're inspired, then your habits and rituals will you've got to do the habits and rituals daily, and you'll build capacity.
Hmm.
And if you really break that down, it's like, what do you do daily? You
Mhm.
know, if you want to be fit, you're going to get your butt out. And I see the videos of you working out. I do the same thing. I go to the gym early in the morning, but you have to commit to those things because they can be lost.
Mhm.
Your attitude can change, things can be changed, but you've got to have really good habits and rituals that you do daily that are just non-negotiable for you. Like,
Right.
and then, there's days where you fall short,
Hmm.
or you fall off the saddle, or you just didn't have a good day. Where people go wrong is they stay in that cycle of they beat themselves up. They start having shame and guilt. Shame and guilt kill personal connection with people. And so we all have these needs that we've got to be the best that we can be. But I really go back to just that simple. I'm inspired. I know who I want to be.
Mhm.
But what am I doing daily to reach that goal so that
Hmm.
I have the capacity to deal with things when things don't go right?
No.
And sometimes I don't have the capacity.
Mhm.
And sometimes I have days that I'm off and I screw up, but I immediately get back on the saddle and I try my best to correct those things because I know where I want to be.
Mhm.
And so it's just comes with the age and experience and falling off the saddle a lot
Yeah.
and scuffing your knees a lot
Yeah.
and really looking back and go, man, you know, I wish I could have changed, but you can't go back. All these things lead up to where you're at now.
Hmm.
And even you two are going to go through another season when you're even 10 years from now, when you've gotten all this experience and some things have worked really well and some things just like shit the bed,
Hmm.
and you're like, oh, we really screwed that deal up. And you're like, but you kept your foundation right,
Hmm.
and you just kept chipping away, and you kept doing the things that are successful. And I think that's one of the things I try to do to not be jaded
Hmm.
and to
Mhm.
not get frustrated with people, because people are not perfect. They're
Hmm.
going to let you down,
Yeah.
and you just know that it's a part of the game. And especially when you're in this wellness business, uh, a lot of people come out in anger. Anger masks all those different things.
Right.
Hmm.
Anger is what happens when people are feeling shameful and feeling guilty and having anxiety and all these different things that come out with anger. And so early on in the game, they teach you that not people aren't mad at you. You can't take it personal. And that's where it goes back to meeting people where they're at.
Hmm.
And
Mhm.
go, you're angry. There's something driving that,
Right.
and it's not towards me personally, even though you're letting it rip on me. And
Right.
so you just have to go, okay, we'll work around that. And
Right.
so
Just part of
that's
the job almost, huh?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
especially when you're dealing with uh employees that are in the wellness side, not even just out in the field. Um, people they've got to go through that process.
Yeah.
And usually they come around and they go, man, I was out of line. I'm like, I don't take it personal.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Right.
It's a part of your growth. It's a part of the things that I'm supposed to be doing to help you.
Right.
That's probably big for people on the police department to have someone like you to be
Yeah.
able to lean on for those types
Yeah.
of things.
And it's a team of people. I've got the best partners in the world
Mm.
that are experts at this, and they've actually been doing it a lot longer than I have.
Hmm.
And man, they've really invested in me and
Mm.
validated my abilities and in the office with our people. when you have this freedom to really go out and do things, and our command staff is unbelievably supportive of this mission. Um, Everything we do is operated in confidentiality. We don't discuss things outside of our those conversations we have. We're actually covered by state law as peer support and peers, and so it's a huge, huge responsibility that never to violate that. So
Right.
that's where that trust is there. But I've got some of the best mentors in the world that I work around, and Scott and Katie, and they're unbelievable at what they do, and they've really, you know, I don't know how much longer they're going to do it, and they've been doing this full time for 5 or 6 years, and I'm a year into it myself, and doing it full time. But every day is an opportunity to learn from them, and they just it's like that iron sharpens iron in our office, and so I just add another element, and this kind of work is just it's about relationships, and so I have a whole set of relationships with a whole nother part of the police department that might not have used these resources.
Right.
And so just people are your best asset. So when we recruit new peers and we recruit peer support, you want to have it as diverse and get people that, hey, I can talk to this group of people.
Right.
And it's just a beautiful thing that we're trying to create and take it to another level.
Well, I feel like one of the really cool things that I know that you've done and your team has done, I should say, is really start to focus on just the obviously the mental health side of things, but also the physical health side of things. I know you've had the Project 49,
Project
correct?
49.
Project 49. I know it's been a big thing that you've been putting on and you and your team have been doing to kind of, again, back to what you were saying, especially at the beginning of it being like a holistic approach. We're taking all angles towards like mental health, physical health, just overall health. Because I know you had a number of police officers that had all passed away, and how often we're seeing cardiovascular health be such an issue, especially amongst people who are first responders and police officers. And so I know the event was really cool that you got to have. Unfortunately, I didn't get to be there. I was getting married that day.
I missed
lame
it.
excuse.
Yeah,
I know.
But you sent Gus. Gus came, and
Draven came.
Draven, yeah. And so Draven was fairly new at the time. And so they represent the brand really, really well. And I'll give you a little backstory on that. So like I told you, 2020, I think, or I get the dates mixed up. I just know every September I remember my friend, and we were very, very close. I've been really fortunate to have, most people go their whole lives and not have a best friend, like someone that you almost are like, you could be related to them. And I'm fortunate. I've gone my whole life and have a couple of best friends like that, where, Clay's one of those people in my life. And Tomas was one of those people in my life. And he was a Hispanic guy, grew up in Southeast Oklahoma City. We met in the academy. When you get done at the academy, you get assigned sectors and districts. And so we became really, really good friends. And he was older than me. He was about 6 years older. And he always told me, I'm just a little bit ahead of you. And so what was cool about him is he liked cool music from the 70s and 60s. And I'm a kind of an old soul. I like that kind of music. And he'd been married a long time, and I that's what I wanted. And then he had 3 boys and I had 3 boys, and he lived out in Mustang, and we were living at Moore at the time. And he was like, you need to come move out here. Well, when you're out there and you're facing these calls and you're going through all these things together, you develop bonds with the people you work at in the middle of the night.
Yeah, we're in the trenches together.
And he was a really, really close friend of mine. And we did things outside of work where we coached our kids. My oldest son, Drew, and his middle son, they played football together, and we made a pact. We would formulate on our breaks and 2:00 in the morning, sitting in our district, making plays for football practice out in Mustang, and dreaming about our boys playing Friday nights at Mustang High School and what it was going to look like and all that kind of stuff. And we just became friends. And as we started getting older, we started bridging off and finding what our purpose was. And he created our cadet program. He knew that there was several inner city kids that really wanted to become police officers. And this was time, Ferguson had just happened, and that social unrest was starting to take place, and people weren't really interested in law enforcement. But you have kids from Capitol Hill and Douglas and all these different socioeconomic groups that are like, hey, we want to go to Metro Tech. We want to get our feet into this law enforcement game. We're poor. We live in bad neighborhoods, but we want to find a way. And we don't want to work at jobs that are not going to pay well.
Right.
And he was like, I'm going to find a way to get a program for these kids and change their family tree. And at the time I was working in our FACT program. So I had freedom to we would go work overtime programs and do what we needed to do. And then we'd park and we'd start mapping out this plan, almost like starting a business.
Yeah. Right.
We just start doing it, and it just took off for him, and he organized that. And we put together the first cadet class, and it was unbelievable. And I think we have like 2 out of that first class, they're married and both patrol officers at Oklahoma City. And so I think we've had like 10 or 12 officers that did that. And so I was really, really proud of him.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things was that we always kind of said, like, if you win, I win. If I win, you win. And so it was like always that hidden like wink.
Yeah.
And that was solid. It was never a competition.
Right.
And I always supported his missions, and he always supported mine. And we were in the hallway one time, first floor, and he was doing the cadet program, and I don't know where I was working at the time. And he looks at me and he goes, guy was coming out of the CHAPS, is what peer support was called before. And he goes, I think you're going to do that one day. I said, man, shut up.
Yeah.
That job's not for me, blah, blah, blah. And that was like 5 years ago. He said that. And then he would take on PAL football teams, working with kids from Oklahoma City public schools. And then as his younger son was getting older, he's about the same age as my twins, and they're all really close. And they were coaching PAL football together. And so Max, that you've met, and his twin brother Noah and Lorenzo is his youngest son, they were coaching. And so the last text I got from my friend was, he sends a picture of Max, Noah, and Lorenzo with these inner city kids. And he says, we win some, we lose some, but we're gaining the experience of a lifetime. And that's still on my phone.
Yeah.
And what he was trying to tell me is, you need to get your ass out here and come watch these kids, and I might need you to fill in because I got a vacation to go to, and that's how his humor was like that. And then that Sunday morning, I got a phone call that he had passed away in his sleep and died of a heart attack. And he was 49 years old, and it crushed me. A few years later, we have another guy out of my class. I wasn't as close to him, but very well liked, and we had always had good conversations with each other. Got home from work and was working out in his garage and collapsed, and also had a heart attack. Just so happened he was 49 years old. And then we had an officer who was a motorcycle officer this last summer that went home after a hot shift and just wasn't feeling right, and then fell asleep and didn't wake up, and it was a cardiac event, and he was also 49 years old. So it just kind of like hit me because my friend, but then you have all these other ones. And so the Chief Gorley at the time was like, hey, we got to do something. This is like preventable.
Yeah.
Right.
And I had already been in talks with a guy that's a stakeholder, Doug White, who's with OK Respond, and he had been talking about this project. So I call him and say, hey, we had another officer pass away. We've got to do something. He's like, I'm all in, I'll help you. And then that's when I approached you and go, I want you guys involved in this deal, because it's a health and wellness fair.
Sure.
And we put this together in about a month and a half. This event should have probably taken about 9 months to put together. And we're going to do that next time. And I'll probably release some details on this podcast.
Oh, nice.
And it's going to be big.
Yeah.
And it was so successful. We had OU Health Corporate Wellness, who ended up taking on our police department as a sponsor. And this coming in 2 days, they're going to take the 49 project to the divisions. And so their first division, Santa Fe division, where they're going to do some testing, screening.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
Fast track our officers that need specialists. If you need to get a heart scan or whatever, sleep study, whatever it is.
Right.
And then we're going to hit Hefner and Southwest and Spring Lake division right after Thanksgiving. So it's continuing to grow.
That's amazing.
And so this went so big that we're going to, August of 2025, it's going to be at the Civic Center.
Oh,
Whoa.
And we got
wow.
the Hall of Mirrors, and we're going to put the second 49 project in. It's going to be bigger and better. And I think OU's bringing out the mammography van, and they're going to have every one of their specialists, and probably going to have you sit on a committee coming up in the
Happy
first
to
of the
do so.
year. And we're going to have some committee meetings and make sure that we hit everything that we can. We've got some great partnerships with our licensed therapists that'll be there. You name it. Warriors Rest Foundation is a great foundation where John Blumenthal, who's retired from our police department, I took his spot in our wellness unit. He's pretty high up in that organization, and he does a lot of great work. And they're going to be involved somehow, some way, because they run all of our training for our critical incident stress management, and they do teaching, and they do all of our post-critical incident stress seminars where officers or first responders can go for a 3-day seminar to really start digging into some issues. And they're just a really big supportive. And so we're hoping it's going to be a big event with more vendors and more people that are wanting to help their local first responders be optimal.
Yeah.
And I've got full support from our command staff. Chief Gorley kind of kicked it off, and then Chief Basie is just a big advocate of wellness and is always concerned about what's going on with his officers. And he's a very personable person. He talks to people and believes in relationships and things like that. And so he's taken the torch from Chief Gorley, who kind of put all this in play, and then he's now the gatekeeper of his officers and their wellness. And he knows that if they're well, they're going to treat the citizens and make really good decisions. And so,
well, yeah. And like you said, I mean, like just being able to get these people, like I know, because you and I have talked a bunch about it, but like getting them to do heart scans and getting like the functional movement screening stuff that you guys were doing, all that kind of stuff is just amazing, because like they were saying, it's preventable. It's stuff that can be addressed if you know it's there. And it's, there's this barrier, whether it's, nobody likes to go to the doctor. Nobody wants to hear bad news kind of thing, but it's like when everybody's doing it, it's okay. It's just going to take a second. Let's get it. And let's start looking, you know what I mean? Let's see where we're at, because once we know where we're at, we can start addressing it. But if you don't, that's when it's like,
it gets you.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not when you expect it.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's one of the biggest things. And it's easy for me to get behind that,
of course,
because I'm inspired by that, and just to honor my friend and the people that have gone through that issue. And all three of those officers were very well liked. And the latest officer, I had a conversation with him just 2 weeks, 3 weeks before, and he was well loved on the department. All three of those guys had great reputations, and it just really kind of was a gut punch to our people.
Sure.
Hopefully a wake-up call to a lot of other officers, though, at the same time, which is why, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, or is, I think, a really good idea to call it the 49 Project.
Yeah.
So,
and that just, it just was a catchy name, but it has a lot of meaning, and people don't, what's that mean? And then you get to tell the story of those three officers that passed away. And then also, it was so cool to see officers that came to that event. They had to kind of wait in line to get their blood work done, and they were just there's camaraderie in that kind of work where people haven't seen each other in a long time, and it just was a buzz. And then you see you see about 60 to 70% of them have little triad key rings. And then it's able, I'm like, hey, you don't have to go to OU to get biometric testing.
Right.
Go to, stop by one of the stores.
Oh yeah.
It's simple. And then our police foundation during the awards banquet went and bought $100 gift certificates from Triad.
Yeah.
And so
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, that was a big deal. And so it's just trying to get people to make healthy decisions,
right,
and do that. And so it was nice to see the police foundation do that and in support of wellness and the health
right.
of our people, and go to the right people to do that. And so yeah, it's just kind of a movement, and just trying to massage that and get people to continue to think, and just, I call it a bait and switch, whatever I can do to get them in the door.
Right.
And then we can address any issue that they have.
And sometimes that's what it takes, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's, it's funny because I think there's situations like that with us too, where it's like, hey, let's get somebody in the door, and it's like, hey, let's hop on the InBody. Like, hey, let's start diving in. Let's find some things, because people come in, and that's always you can always, I hate to put it this way, but you can always kind of tell sometimes when you're talking to somebody and they're going through this and they're going through that, and you go, all right, well, how's the nutrition side of things right now? And they go, well, it's not the best.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, well, we're going to put everything else down right now, and let's have a conversation about nutrition.
Yes.
Like, let's open your eyes a little bit. Let's, because sometimes it is, and it's not always these massively transformative, I'm writing out this like big long diet. Right. It's, hey, here's the effect of protein on your body, and here's the effect of sugar on your body. Let's just tackle those two things, and I can make 40% headway on like anything that we need to be working on. You know what I mean? And those are two easy things that I can tackle. Don't worry about carbs. Don't worry about fats.
Right.
You're fine. Protein and sugar. If we can conquer those two things, obviously carbs are sugar, but like if we're talking about like, like processed sugar, refined sugar, it's like, the sweets and protein. It's like, you want to up this one, you want to down that one, but
yeah, we want to stay away from high fructose corn.
Right.
Syrup.
Well, it's just, because in our own ways, I've done this for so long that I feel like I've seen things, and I've talked to people and they tell me things, and I'm like, really taken back by like what, like some people, and if they're just not to any fault of their own, maybe, like you look at the way nutrition is taught in this country and stuff like that, where it's definitely been lacking. But you start to see, when I start talking to somebody who's drinking 12 Dr. Pepper heavies a day. I like to call them Dr. Pepper heavies. Soda heavies. But it's like, they're drinking, I had a person one time, this was years ago. This is over 10 years ago. But this lady I was talking to hadn't had a sip of water in, she told me, 19 years. And the only thing she drank was orange Fanta, and drank orange Fanta from sun up to sundown. And just explaining to her the effects of sugar on insulin levels and insulin's, hindrance of body fat loss and all of these things, and type 2 diabetes, like the whole rabbit hole that we're able to go down. And it's like, and she leaves and she's like looking at me and she's like, I never want to drink an orange Fanta again. And I'm like, well, that's a good start.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, look, I'm not telling you have to go from orange Fanta straight to water, which you obviously don't like, but let's find a middle ground, whether that's something diet or, let's try to find something that we can work on.
One glass of water as opposed to a Fanta like one time throughout the day.
Right. Yeah. Or there's diet Sunkist or whatever, there's diet orange soda. And I'm not saying that that's a great thing for you, but it's a whole lot better than a Dr. Pepper heavy. So it's like we got to start finding and picking and choosing the kind of things that we want to do. And again, it can be, those things can be, you know, I know like transformative in the sense of like, we're not trying to change everything they're eating, everything that you're doing, but here's a couple of really important things that if we were to do, or if it's, you know, hey, I'm taking in, almost 1.5 grams of caffeine a day through energy drinks.
It's a process that we're growing.
Right. And then so it's like, hey, well, let's start looking into this. Let's start, you know, this is why our sleep's bad. This is why this is bad. And then we can start to digest that, and we can start to, again, we're not telling people to go from 1 gram of caffeine a day to nothing.
Yeah.
It's, you know, but hey, let's be in a more reasonable range, and let's be reasonable about our time frames, and all those things can make a big change.
Well, and I love it when you go from Thomas the friend to Thomas like, okay, buddy, we need to address this. Yeah, that is a little bit. I'm like, I know, Thomas, I know. I'm just waiting for you to start talking like this.
Yeah.
We got to start eating really well. When you were talking like that, I was thinking of all the RFK.
Right.
The TikToks on I've been seeing where the guy's holding the bag of Doritos. You better put those bag of Doritos up.
Yeah, it's leg day, brother.
and then they show a meme of a jacked RFK.
He's jacked, isn't he?
He is jacked.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
But he's and so we have this joke with the boys. I'm like, you better not be eating that stuff.
But hey, you know, I think with somebody like him, you know, and people have their own opinions, but it was somebody like him. I think for us, I think we have a unique perspective, at least Kevin and I know because you're into this too, is it's like where the things that we have in place have failed.
Yes.
That where the FDA has failed, where these things have not been doing what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, how many headaches FDA wise are there that we like hear, understand on a regular basis, let alone look at the fucking food pyramid. That thing is a joke. It's like, man, wonder who funded this. Like, and you know, you start seeing these things that, you know, like are not based on science, are not based on true nutrition, and they're just silly and ridiculous. Like I remember genuinely being taught year after year after year through school the food pyramid and how you're supposed to have 8 servings of carbohydrates a day, like grain a day, and you're like, what are we doing? Right. Where the joke was that if you flip the food pyramid upside down, it was better than it was right side up. And you're like, all right, here we go.
I'm a kid from the 80s. So yeah, it was that you had to eat 3 square meals a day, and you better have some kind of hydrogenated seed oil.
Bread is your base.
And I don't know why I'm addicted to high fructose corn syrup,
Yeah.
real sodas, and then you're trying to chase it when you're my age, and you're just trying to reverse all the little Caesar's pizzas you ate as a kid or in high school or college.
And that's it's a really interesting thing that you just brought up, because, you know, when to share a little bit about myself too, like when I was growing up, you know, my mom, my sister, and I, we lived with my grandma. And when my grandma passed away, we came into some life insurance money. And unfortunately, the route that we took as a family was to eat every meal out for about 6 years. So from the time I was about 9 until the time I was about 15, we did not eat a cooked meal at home. Like not a single, like I can rarely remember a single one during that time frame, if one at all. And you start looking at, again, our brain works through pathways, and, you know, you start to, they're like hiking trails. The more you trudge that hiking trail, the cleaner and nicer and more, you know, ready to go, ready of a pathway it is. And so, you know, it is amazing the effects that still has on me today of the way my brain chemistry is affected and can have cravings or look to those kind of things, especially in moments of stress or moments of like, I'm feeling so good. And it's crazy when you start thinking about, you know, what we feed our kids. And I don't have any kids, but like when you start looking at like, what are we feeding our kids and what are we doing? It's like, you're not just setting somebody up now, you're setting them up for failure later.
Big
like
time.
You're like, I still have to battle that and still have to unprogram as much as I can of those things, because it's a life-changing, it's a life-altering thing when we're getting these hyper caloric like craziness. Like a McChicken has like 500 calories.
Oh yeah.
It's like I can make a whole meal for 500 calories. I don't know how you make a tiny little chicken sandwich 500 calories. I can eat 30 of those things.
I was gonna say, one is ain't gonna cut it
Right,
as far as satiating somebody. So
and that's like the whole point. It's like hypercaloric and super undersatiating on purpose, where it's like you're starting to take this and again, I think, we'll see how, we hope for the best, obviously, with like Bobby Kennedy Jr., but it's like, is this gonna be, somebody who knows what's going on and understands the bullshit that's been going through and been put in our foods and all these kind of things? It's like there's change that needs to be made, and so it's like I'm happy to see that at least the idea of change is coming.
Yeah, and it's getting talked about, and
amen.
And that's a big deal, because man, garbage in, garbage out, and then you're at my age, and you're gosh, I've got, according to the statistics, I got about 35 years on this planet, and you just want to put in good, healthy supplementation, and it helps holistically. You're functioning better, your brain is working better, and all these different things. And I've really gotten into supplementation of vitamins and making sure you're taking certain things. And I don't want to be hooked on Ambien to just sleep, because I worked night shift for so many years.
Amen.
And so I take magnesium before I go to bed, and NAC for my liver, and just different things that, over the years have worked for me. And, my buddy Clay is really big on that. He'll have people come up to him and go, "Hey, give me a diet plan." And he gets frustrated, and he's like, "Well, stop eating blanking sugar."
Right.
Why don't you cook your meals? And they go, "Ooh, that's gross. You're eating chicken or steak and this and quinoa," and he eats the same thing every day. Those are non-negotiables for him.
Right.
And he's like, "Well, keep eating your fatty pizza and hamburgers."
Right.
If you want to look a certain way, it takes a certain discipline to do that. And oh gosh, some of the funniest things when people come up and ask about diet, and he gets frustrated.
Yeah,
that's take his advice.
That's the toughest thing, though, is like I could write a great diet for you, but the hardest thing is like I can't write one that you'd follow.
Yes.
Or that is the tough thing, is trying to find something that you can follow. And going back to Tom was talking about not worrying about the whole diet plan. It's just focusing on a couple of things, like little by little, because like there's rarely anybody that goes from eating fast food every meal to prepped meals like every single meal throughout the day. It's little by little. But yeah, that is always the frustrating thing, is like I'm going to write a diet plan. If I write a full diet plan for you, the chances of you following this are pretty slim.
Yeah.
Well, it's also funny too, because they could just relate it to the store as well. And we're very blessed, and everybody does really well. But the thing that always kind of cracks me up sometimes is the solution is eating prepped food in business terms. And it's like those aren't always the fun things, you know what I mean? Where it's like, hey, maybe a store's like not as quite as busy as it needs to be. And it's like, well, have you done this? And it's like, I don't think that's it. And I'm like, that's probably it. Like, that's probably the solution that would fix this. But I get it. Nobody wants to eat the prep food, but this is, these are the solutions that we know that get us there.
It's got to be some sort of easier solution.
Yeah, it's got to be. I don't think it's that.
Yeah.
I think if we or it's like I'm out of solutions. I don't know what to do. I can't lose weight. Have you changed your diet? No. Well, that might be part of it. Like,
it's the same for mental health. It's the same for everything. It's just like, no, I'm not going to go see somebody. I'm not going to go talk to somebody, whatever. And then I go, listen, I go see somebody every month.
Yep.
I'm down to a point where I go see my counselor. I don't wait till I'm in DEFCON 1.
Right.
I don't wait till I'm in the red and I go, it's a maintenance thing. And it's the same with diet. Yep. I can't imagine how many people come in and you're like, hey, let's just start off with some really like, let's start changing our habits and rituals. That applies to everything that we do. Um, go walk.
Yeah.
Mm.
Walking is huge. My Cassie used to run. Oh gosh, she used to run miles, logging 6 miles, and I hate running. I tried.
Yeah.
I gave up. Okay,
Right. It's all right.
my heart rate is better when I walk.
Yeah.
But I realized that that's good cardio for me
Yeah.
at my age, and my hips and my knees, and wearing a gun belt for 20 plus years,
Yeah.
and all these different things. Like, okay, but I know my heart at this point in my life needs to be worked out. I make sure that I get those 2 or 3 days a week of just like, okay, give the weightlifting a break,
Sure.
which I love lifting weights.
Mm.
It's one of my passions, and sometimes I'll do my walk and I'll find my way over to the weights and get a nice little pump in, just because
You
it
can
makes
walk
me
to and from the weights.
I can, but there's something about it, and I enjoy doing that. But walking is like the perfect way to just start your health journey.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Just moving.
Yep.
And then, and I tell people, like, I've never worked out before. And I said, walk, get on that treadmill and just walk. And then if you want to start some type of resistance training, just do a full body head to toe. Pick 2 rounds of just really simple exercises that I said, that's how I started. I got a membership to Planet Fitness. Don't judge me.
No.
6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And for the first 2 or 3 months, I had to get my cardio in check because I needed to drop some just flab off of my body. And then it moved into, okay, I'm going to start with 3 or 4 times a week, just doing 2 to 3 rounds of full body exercises. And then you're like, okay, you're getting that energy back, and you're getting these incremental changes, and your body's changing a little bit. And then you start really diving off into, workout splits and what your goals are, and what what works for you. And so, but I think sometimes people want instant gratification.
Yeah.
They want, hey, Thomas, can you get me a pill to lose 15 pounds? Yeah, in a nice way.
Yeah.
Well, let's try this
Right.
route. And so it's the same with our everything in our lives, whether it's
Right.
our finances, whether it's our mental health or anything. Just start somewhere.
Amen.
Start somewhere and get it going.
I did write a plan for a lady one time. She came in and bought a couple of things, and we went kind of over her eating habits, and used one of my tricks, which is if someone's specifically wanting a meal plan, I'll write a meal plan that
Sure.
is 90% of what you're already doing and 10% different, so
Mhm.
that it's easy to follow. And then she was asking about exercise, and she was a little bit older, and I think had a tough time with some movements, and wasn't comfortable going to the gym yet.
Right.
Wasn't even really comfortable getting outside a whole lot. So I had her map out her kitchen, or map out her house, and we created a little lap and a route for her to do just inside of her house, just walking.
Yeah.
And it was hey, just do this 10 minutes a day. Once you've done it for 10 minutes for the first week, if you're feeling comfortable, let's bump it to 15.
Yeah.
And then 20, and then we can work on, then once you're comfortable with that, then you'll hit a point where you realize, like, hey, we can probably go outside now. We probably do some walking around outside.
Oh yeah.
And that'll just snowball. And I'm like, every single week, look at what you did the last week, and if you're like, man, that was tough, just do the same thing again. But if you feel comfortable with it, just take one small step
Yeah.
in the direction of making it just a little more difficult.
Yeah, Kaylin and I, whenever we work at UConn, we walk laps in the store. I'm hoping one day we'll be able to go outside soon. So I think Kaylin and I are working our way to being able to walk outside.
I love coming up to the UConn store and seeing you guys just walking around. We
just walk laps. We walk laps around.
My
the store.
favorite was I didn't know what you guys were doing at first.
And that's what's so cool. You mentioned Kaylin and Preston and like seeing all these they're 20-year-old kids, and they've grown up in your organization.
Yeah.
And now they're stakeholders in what you're doing, and you're bringing in so many people. I just want to talk about that, and seeing you guys grow and getting to know you guys and your employees, and they really kind of become like our kids and our family. And and it's been really cool to see you guys bring people up, and some have come and gone, and and have gone on to do other things, and Tyler's one of those
Mhm.
people that
Yeah.
was really good, and then I even remember Trace before he got on the
Oh,
fire
yeah.
department, and
Yeah.
Love
and just
Trace.
seeing you guys all grow, and then they're getting older and
Mhm.
getting a little wiser, and it's always been fun just to have those like life coaching moments with them as
Oh,
they're,
yeah.
it's a Saturday morning and Cassie are coming in to get her energy drinks for the day, and we just get done working out, and they share their lives and what they've been going through, and some challenges, and you have that opportunity to kind of shed some knowledge and do that, and it's been really cool. And Caitlin's one of
Oh,
those
yeah.
people that was one of the first people that helped me too up in the North Store when she was working up there, and she was going to school. She had a class with my oldest son, and so you just develop these relationships, and it's a really neat deal. And then you guys have taught your concepts of customer service and mentorship and all those things, and just and then everybody you've added that's come along is fallen right in line with that, and it's a really neat process. And I just wanted to
Well,
give the
yeah.
kudos
Appreciate
to you
that. Well, I
guys for
We
appreciate
that.
you
appreciate
sharing
that.
your wisdom, your knowledge with our employees, because
Yeah.
Oh
that's
yeah,
most of the people we bring on are in their early 20s or even in their teens, and
yeah,
and
yeah.
and have a lot to learn. I had a lot to learn at that
Sure.
age, so
Mhm.
it's we can tell them things over and over again, but I think we hit a certain point where they stop listening to
Oh yeah, yeah.
us. So having extra support from you and Cassie
Yeah, yeah.
and Clay and everybody else on the police department
Sure.
that comes in and shares their wisdom, their knowledge, their experiences with our employees is huge, because they put a lot of effort and a lot of work into to
Yeah.
help all our customers out.
Yeah.
That if they're getting a little bit unexpectedly, I think that's it. They may not even appreciate it a whole lot now, but I think will go a really, really long way for them in the
Well,
long
Yeah.
term.
how cool is it that, um, like I said, people have come and gone, but you've got a core group of people that you hired, and you've got a really cool you know application process, or how you select people.
Mm,
It's out of the box. And I think that's one, it gives people stake in your company the way you choose them, and the standard you set with how you do it, and the training you put into it. I think you put in a post, or you put a Facebook post or something about how stringent it is,
mm,
and how when you get to work here, not that you have to work here, but you get to work here, you've put in the work, you've
mhm.
invested in this place. And I used to play devil's advocate when they were younger and go, so what are you going to do after this?
Mhm.
Mm,
Like, I'm going to work here.
Yeah.
And
that's
I'm like,
awesome.
okay, okay.
Heck
Yeah.
yeah.
I really, are you going to work here?
Right.
This isn't the McDonald's.
Right.
This
Yeah.
isn't a job where people come and go, come and go, come and go, and it's not a stepping stone to something bigger. And that is really hard to find. Even the police department, we have to make sure that, when I first came on, that all eggs were in that basket. It was like, I'm going to work for this organization for 30 plus years.
Right.
Mhm.
And now, there's people that go, I it's not for me. And so we're kind of going through this weird dynamic where, like, no, this isn't a stepping stone.
Mm.
You might say you want to go work for the FBI, or you might go want to do this or that. Once you get here, the opportunity is huge. And I think you guys are creating that too for your company. And as you expand and more opportunities come, that's when you see who your informal leaders are, and they
Mhm.
start stepping into those roles. And doesn't matter what age they are.
Right.
you know, I was a police officer at 22 years old. Somebody could say, "Yeah, you're not old enough."
Right.
Mm.
Or my son Noah working out at the FAA, they could say, "Yeah, you're 21. You're not. You shouldn't
Right.
have an opportunity to do that." And it doesn't matter. It's when you've got the skill set, and informal leadership is very, very important. And you guys recognize that, and you go, "Okay, here's your opportunity." We've had that
Right.
conversation. Some take it
Right.
and some don't. And the ones that do, those are the ones you want to build around, and like, okay, we're going to create that, foster those opportunities to grow, and I'm really excited to see where this whole thing goes.
Yeah.
It's
we are
going to be
too.
pretty big.
Yeah.
We're working on it day by day, so
right.
we're got no plans on
That's
stopping
it.
anytime soon.
Well, to kind of just wrap things up, because we're at about 2 hours right now, so
I can't believe it.
It goes fast, man.
You want to go for another
Yeah.
hour? We got more stories.
I know.
We could
man.
talk politics, sports. We didn't even get into like cool things that you're a big Eagles fan.
Yeah.
I'm a big Packers fan, and it's fun to do that. I do have things outside of wellness
Yeah. Right.
that I do like.
Right.
My wife and I like to take trips and do things. I love working out. We've lived in Mustang our whole life, and we'll see where that kind of goes. My next thing is grandkids,
Yeah.
which is really wild.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't wrapped my head around that. You guys are talking about, we're gonna have another kid. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's gonna be a little bambino or a little cannoli running around. Those are my nicknames for my sons. My oldest one, he's been Bambino since he was little, and Noah's been Cannoli. I've called him Cannoli, and then Max has always been Maxi Boy, and so. There's gonna be a little Bambini and a little cannoli running around. I'm not ready for that. And Cassie's like, we do not want to talk about that.
Yeah, cross that bridge when we get there.
But man, just to kind of again, just tell you one, how much I love you, and how much
love you guys too.
How much like you've meant to me, and I know like the business in general, and how much you've supported us, inside and out, talking to people about us, but even outside of that, I just appreciate how much you've supported us as people, and supported me as a person, and somebody who I talk to about a lot of things. We've had a million conversations, from the good, the bad, the ugly, to everything. So just having somebody who just is always there. You are one of those people in my life that I just do truly feel like is there for me all the time. And
I appreciate that.
No, and I mean it. And so I want you to know, how much of a special place you have in my heart, and aside from business and all that kind of stuff, just like how much I appreciate you as a person, and a friend, and somebody who's been really an awesome addition to my life over these last number of years. And excited to just keep getting to grow and watch you grow and watch your family and everything. It's been awesome, man.
Well, I'm a better person for knowing you and being around you, and like it's real. It's a real relationship of and I've told you this, like I'm inspired by what you guys are doing. Like it's not. I know you. When you hear that, whether what place you are to receive that, like you are teaching old dogs new tricks, and keep doing what you're doing. And that's the advice, is to continue down this, like never get complacent.
Yeah.
Always push yourself. Always never be afraid to bet on yourself, but you guys have already done that from the moment you chose from. I know your story and how you packed up and took your savings and left college and said, the hell with this, we're going to do this. Oh, that's huge. And so just continue to do that. And then you always have old Adam in the corner rooting for you as people. And it's like you said, it's more than this. It's a deep relationship, and I'm just thankful and grateful to have you guys and to have you even outside my circle of my first responder people, because it's very good to have people outside that to give you perspective on things. And that's what I tell everybody when I leave them from a text message or whatever. I'm just thankful and grateful. Those are the two words that I always use. And, maybe when it's a downtime and you need another guest, we'll dive off into some more stuff.
Man. We'd love to have you back on.
I'll keep coming and keep talking, because you guys, it's easy to support you.
Yeah.
It is funny how you get to the end of 2 hours and you're like, man, I could go another 2 easily.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
Until Cassie starts lighting my phone.
Yeah. Melissa's probably not too far behind Cassie.
Right.
Yeah.
But man, it's as cool as it was to show you the warehouse and kind of the more physical signs of growth. Truly, what Triad and Defined Nutrition is a accumulation of the people that support us, that all the way from the team members to our, the customer that came in the first time today. It's the culture that we have. And man, you coming in the store, you and Cassie, and when you and Clay used to come in, man, you'd brighten everybody's day, and you guys have become such big parts of what our culture is, and what's driven us forward, and have affected it in so many different ways. From again, just helping our team be positive, and helping spread the word, and just being representatives of what the Tried and Defined Nutrition culture is, has been a huge impact on getting us to this point where we get to show you the shelves we put up at the warehouse.
Hey, it's easy, man. It's easy when you come in and you feel you can just feel it. It's that vibe, and it's that always tell Cassie when I get in the car, I was like, man, I always feel better after leaving that place. And it's you guys, everything I do now for our employees and what you guys do for your customers and your employees is you create an experience. And I think you said that one time in one of our casual conversations. I don't know, that's big. And you guys do that. And I always feel like, oh, I'm glad I stopped in. It's good to see those guys. And whether it's just getting my gorilla minds for Cass or whatever, and a beef stick for first form beef stick or whatever, it's just that. And so no, it's I'm humbled, and you guys are killing it, and I'm just glad to support you.
Yeah. Well, speaking of support, I know with the projects and different things that you have going on, is there any way for people who are maybe listening to maybe support or do anything to kind of help you guys out in your department? Or?
Yeah. So we are a wellness unit, and it's like a regular unit, like burglary or homicide. It's its own wellness unit, and we always we have people that financially donate or whatever they want to do, or volunteer or whatever it is at one of these big projects. And so we're not a nonprofit. And so what we do is we have a nonprofit, OK Respond, to a national ERAP who takes care of any donations and things like that. And if somebody feels like, hey man, I want to contribute to that financially, or I just want to donate a couple of cases of water, or like at Sample Triad, I got the rep from Ghost is going to send a couple of cases of Ghost
to
the office, and we're going to give them out to our officers.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And so why not?
Yeah, right.
Just give us a shout. 405-316-5200 is the wellness office, and it comes to all of us. And our email's OCPD Wellness at okc.gov.
Perfect.
And so if anybody ever says, hey, how can I be a part of this? Or I want to be a part of this Project 49, or I just want to find a way to help your officers, just give us a shout. We'll facilitate that and figure it out.
Heck yeah.
Awesome.
We love it.
I appreciate it.
Do we know what episode this is?
57, I believe.
57. Yeah, right. That's
so
craziness.
I had unsuccessful entrepreneur. I almost said a bad word. Stickers in my police car for the longest time. So when I had to transport somebody, they got to see Kevin and Thomas.
We love it. We love it. Well, there's some more stickers for you.
So,
episode 57. This is amazing. This was an awesome episode. We appreciate you coming on. Love to have you back on.
Yeah, I would love to.
Was looking forward to talking with you, because obviously we don't get to see you in the store as much as
right.
I was like, man, we could just catch up with a friend.
Yeah,
great.
Absolutely. I love you guys.
Love you, buddy.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. So we appreciate it.
Thanks for listening.
All righty.